I'm Don Langren.
I'm Caitlin Horowitz.
And today we're going to be talking about groundwater, porosity, permeability, and the water cycle. Now we've all heard the phrases rock solid or solid as a rock. Well, today we're going to prove to you how inaccurate those two phrases are. So today I'm going to start with the hydrological cycle. So the hydrological cycle, it starts from our oceans and our mountain caps with the ice and icebergs. Well, from those we have what is called evaporation. And then that evaporation goes up into the clouds, up into the sky, and those water molecules get so heavy that they create clouds, and then that's where we get our precipitation. And precipitation can come in the form of rain, snow, and sleet and hail. Now, that precipitation can go on our mountaintops and our hills, and that's what creates our runoff. And that runoff, then it gets absorbed into our ground soils, and that creates groundwater. And then from groundwater, that goes into what is called infiltration, that travels through the ground and then restarts the whole cycle again. So, groundwater, when most people think of groundwater, they automatically, they're going to go to an underground cave. When in reality, 80% of the Earth's groundwater actually consists in our soils and our sands. The ground is actually divided up into different layers. And so you have your saturated zone, your unsaturated zone, and then the layer that's in between those that divides those two zones is actually called the water table. And so that water table is not actually completely flat. So it's actually going to its elevation is actually going to change over time depending on the environment or the area in which the water is at. And so groundwater actually consists within that saturated zone. And so now I'm actually going to turn it back over to Caitlin, and she's going to talk to you about porosity and permeability.
So porosity is going to relate all to this and as the solid as a rock phrase. And so porosity is going to be about little rocks and their tiny little holes they have that can all hold water. So like the saying goes, solid as a rock, it obviously isn't, because it would have to have, all rocks have to have 1% to at least 40% of porosity, because it all has holes and it all can pass, water can pass through it. So the way you can find out porosity is doing this equation, which is going to be, you're going to try to find N, and you're going to take the amount of water that that's going to be like subtracted from the total that you put into it, and then it's going to be divided by the total of water you put into it. And this all relates back to permeability because it goes hand in hand with porosity and how it's about its ability to hold water. And so the standard unit you use for permeability would be meters squared, or you could use a Darcy if it's too tiny, which would be 10 to the negative 12 meters squared, and that would be a Darcy. So this will all relate back to hair porosity, which Don is going to chat about. He can take it right here.
So, our hair is actually a fibrous, proteinous system, and depending on how absorbent it is will depend on how it looks and certain things that you do to your hair. So actually our hair, when you actually look at it under a microscope, almost looks like these weird little cone-like substances, and so you have all these different ridges within it. And so it looks like our hair actually has all these different layers to it. And so basically what ends up happening is all the keratin that actually that builds up, it creates layers, but these different layers are called cuticles. And so depending on how porositized your hair is, will depend on how wide these openings are. So if you actually have hair that actually absorbs hair, is very porous, you're going to have wide openings here, and so it's going to take in all kinds of water. Whereas if it doesn't, it's just gonna have like a little opening here, and it's gonna take in just a little bitty tiny bit of water here. And so there's things that could damage your hair. And so a lot of things like UV rays,
Obviously.
it could also affect the porosity of it, or even some of the products that we actually use in it, like bleaching your hair can actually really affect it as well, or dyeing it. Also, even if you curl your hair, some people with natural curly hair, because of those kinks, they're gonna have not very porous hair. Same way with if you use a curling iron, because you're gonna overheat it, so you're gonna damage those hair follicles as well. And so when we actually come into our lab tomorrow, one of the things that we're gonna do is we're actually gonna test the porosity of our hair. So one thing I'm gonna ask you guys to do is come to class, do not use any product in your hair, and make sure it is clean.
Yep.
And so we wanna thank you, and we hope that we get to see you tomorrow and have a lot of fun. Thanks.